right, we got attorney Frank Miranda in the house. Frank, I love when we talk about these different situations. This truly is intelligent talk radio, because a lot of times people don't understand these situations that arise out there, and if they are quick to jump to conclusions, or if they're answering questions to the insurance agency, I mean, they can really dig themselves into a hole when it comes to legal situations. But you've noticed some interesting stuff going on lately, you said.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact when I come in here and I'm able to share stories of what's going on with my practice. And so aside from, doing the transactional aspect of it and protecting the consumer during and before and during the closing, I have the unique ability to go ahead and tell you stories of the courtroom. And that blend is what's missing in a lot of people that do this kind of title work, because they can guide you and keep you out of litigation, hopefully, and get the deal closed.
Right.
Now, the situation we were talking about before we came on the air is I heard of a elderly woman who was approached by a real estate agent, and from my understanding, the initial meeting that took place when the agent was handing out literature advertising, and in this aspect, it was calendars, and it seemed pretty innocuous at the time. And then later on, this woman continues to ask whether or not the property's for sale. Property happens to be a block off the beach in St. Petersburg, small little 5-unit place. Lo and behold, what happens is, over the course of some events, this person files a guardianship over this woman, claiming she's incapacitated.
Wow.
Goes all the way through a trial. They stick her involuntarily into a retirement center. The facts along the way are pretty much undisputed, in that before the realtor filed this guardianship, she had the ability to did take this woman to her bank. She saw her bank records. She saw what she had in the bank.
Wow.
And there's undisputed fact that this woman asked if she was willing to sell the property. She refused to sell the property. And in the timeline, if you look at the timeline, only after she saw bank statements and after the fact, she learned that she sold half of the property to a long caring relative that's been caring for this woman for 15 years for undervalue. That she say he's taking advantage of her. All the neighbors who are familiar with this lady and familiar with the family members say that's not the case. This guy loved his great aunt, loved his great aunt, took care of her for 15 years, did everything at this little motel for her, took her to the grocery store, took her to the church 3 times a week, took her to the doctor. He didn't take advantage of her at all, according to the neighbors. And this woman who lives miles and miles away, all of a sudden thinks that she's doing a good thing and files this guardianship.
Wow.
So I heard about the story. I went to court one day, and I didn't like what was going on. And so I was fortunate enough that this gentleman retained me. And I, for the last week, have been reading the transcript of this trial that went on. Some of these facts I just told you about were in this document. And so we're in it, and we're going to investigate everything. And,
Wow.
And, this story came to light by ABC News. A great reporter, Adam Walser, ran a story on it coincidentally this past Monday, which is the day before I got involved in the case. There happened to be a symposium yesterday in Tampa with some national speakers about how this guardianship epidemic, how people are taking advantage of the law, and they're isolating people from their family. When they isolate them, they drug them. They put them in these retirement centers, and then there's a third party that you don't know controlling your assets.
Wow.
And that, I think, on ABC News tonight, they're going to rerun that story.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of things about this story that should upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we are going to absolutely investigate every stone we can, and we're going to look at every motive out there, because on its surface, it looks bad.
Yeah.
I can tell you we're going to issue a lot of subpoenas to a lot of people, and we're going to take a lot of depositions, and we're going to come to the truth to see what's really going on there. So come full circle back to this, what this show's about is protecting the consumer.
That's right.
Okay? And so you may or may not have unscrupulous people trying to find a way to sell pieces of property that people don't want to sell.
Yeah.
And so they're out there, folks, and we're here to make you aware of the scenario. I'm going to encourage everyone, if you have any assets, because, coincidentally, there's nobody with no assets that they're putting into guardianship.
Right.
Okay? They don't care about those people.
Right.
It's the people that have assets that don't have family members around. And by the way, the filing of the petition for this guardianship that I'm talking about occurred when her sole family member from this country went overseas to visit other family members. So if you look at the timeline when everything went down, you got to be skeptical.
Yeah, it is. That's crazy. So there's some kind of a law that's allowing this type of thing to happen.
There's a whole statute. There's a whole statute book. It's it's on law and guardianship. It's Chapter 744 of the Florida statutes. And
Wow.
if you look at it, anyone can file a petition. So next time Trump's down here visiting his golf course, if someone filed a guardianship against him, they're going to go question him.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting when we look at especially the consumer law, the voting laws, the motor vehicle laws, the ones that we're also dealing with the pill mills. Whenever things get changed, there was an example of one that we talked about on the show that was with the shootings down in Parkland. They had just made a change for the better, where now the first responders or the witnesses that saw these horrible acts happen, now they can file for workers' comp and be compensated with work comp under those laws. So the wheels of justice sometimes take longer to spin, and in this case, it sounds like something needs to be done.
I agree with you, and the sad thing is there's three people that gave this woman a psychiatric evaluation. One's an ER doctor, one's a nurse, and one is a psychologist. I would argue that only one of them is qualified to make that opinion. But when you look deeper into it, what I've read so far is, they gave this woman preliminary psychological studies, and they based their opinion on that. So I spoke to a doctor who has board certifications in 6 areas related to geriatrics. Well, head and shoulders above, credentialed above the 3 people that examined this woman.
Right.
And what he said is, hey, look, you can manipulate the outcome of these tests, because when you ask somebody, hey, what's the date today?
Yeah.
And they can't give you the date, which I'd venture to think most of the people in this room can't tell you the date today.
Right.
And that person says, no, you can lose 3 points on a test that's only 30 points.
Right.
And, to me, that seems a little bit archaic, number one. But number two, there's no explanation as to how these people did this. So if this woman said, I don't know the date today, but she looked on her cell phone and she was able to obtain the date, then I think you have the abilities, the cognitive abilities to figure out an answer.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, but that could be marked wrong by
Right.
whoever's giving the test.
Right.
And so there's a lot more questions that we're going to ask that unfortunately weren't asked. But, and I'm not saying anyone did a wrong job. I think they did a fine job in representing these people. I think the system's set up where, and I'll give you a perfect example. Law officer makes an allegation somebody was smoking pot. They come to court. He testifies. Defendant testifies. The judge is always going to listen to the officer over the defendant.
Sure.
And so what happens in these scenarios, these people have been pre-qualified per statute that they can give these opinions. And so I don't blame a court for, taking the advice of these people. But when you dig deeper, I think there's got to be questions. And so the problem with the law is this. The problem with the law is there's no mechanism to check the people that we trust.
Right.
Okay? And it's been shown throughout our whole existence in this country, from Wall Street all the way down to anyone else that's going to make a dollar. If you don't look over someone's shoulder, there's a portion of every segment of society that's going to take advantage of the people that we're trying to protect.
That's
what
true.
this show's trying to protect.
That's right. Absolutely. I see it. We see it all the time. You see different examples of that. And that's really good stuff there, Frank. So attorney Frank Miranda, real estate attorney here in Tampa. Reach out to him. Reach out to consumerqb.com. And we want to help you with all of your consumer advocate content and advice. Attorney Frank Miranda, real estate attorney here. What else are you seeing out there, Frank, when it comes to the consumer advocacy approach you have?
Well, the biggest thing I talked about already, what happened to me this week and when I reviewed that case. And so I've told that story. But in the grand scheme of things, the guys at Mutual of Omaha, Kevin's done a great job in explaining his program. So what we'd like to do as a firm is anybody that goes to Kevin with that program, we'll be happy to give them a discounted closing rate also for the veterans in this area. Obviously, we have MacDill Air Force Base. What a tremendous resource we have here.
Yes.
And the spinoff of all the good they do there. You're talking about community service. Aside from being protected from the military, what they do for the community is not told enough.
Right.
And those guys are out there and they're donating, and you see them trying to collect toys at Christmas, and you can't do enough for these guys.
Right.
And so we will definitely help out anybody you have
Amen,
in
Frank.
that program, Kevin,
Awesome.
and help the veteran out some more. Aside from what I'm seeing out there is, just this year, I've come across 3 scenarios where people wanted to walk away from the table and they had no contractual right to. And so fortunately, because they were at our law firm, we were able to stand up for the person and represent them along with doing the closing. And all 3 deals closed. And so fortunately, if you have someone that is more than just than a title company, or more than just someone that's going to push paper across the table, that understands the whole realm of what's going on, we can prevent bad things from happening and get deals that should get closed.
Yeah.
You guys do a great job. And I can tell you, people on the radio that are listening, the properties that you feature today, y'all look beautiful. And they're great locations, well maintained, right on the spot, not only in the investment properties, but they look, if you have an extended family, wonderful place to go. So you guys have done a great job in getting great properties that you're telling the people about. And
Appreciate that.
It looks like if I was looking for a house, I'd definitely be interested in a couple of those.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, thanks a lot.